What's going on, everyone? My name is Derek. This is Euro Superbike Life. Welcome back to the channel. In the last episode of our Mv Agusta F3 XX track bike build, the bike that's right behind me right here, I went through a quick install of our STM slipper clutch, and I mentioned that there was going to be a more in-depth, more detailed install of that slipper clutch. That's happening right here, right now. So let's get into it. All right, guys, so we're over at my desk. Just want to share with you a couple of the things that we're going to need for this STM slipper clutch install. Obviously, you are going to need your STM slipper clutch, so let's not forget that. You're going to need a clutch cover gasket. You're going to get one of these. I got mine from Pro Italia. They had them in stock. This should be, believe it or not, one of the few things that your MV dealer should have in stock, so make sure you get one of these. You are going to need a couple of 13mm wrenches. You're going to need an 8mm socket. If you have a cover, if you have a clutch cover, a protective clutch cover, you're probably going to need a 4mm Allen or socket like that one here. Obviously, a few ratchets. You're going to need a set of calipers. I'll explain why later. Also going to need some feeler gauges. This is a sort of angled set, and it's a more traditional flat set. You don't need one or the other. You'll need some specialty tools. This is a Tusk clutch basket holding tool, and this is the one specifically from STM. You'll need an impact driver. This is a 1/4 inch, this is a 1/2 inch. You'll need one or the other. You'll need a torque wrench. And then you'll probably need some type of shallow bucket. Not completely necessary, but it helps to organize things. All right, so for the most part, that's it. There may be a few other miscellaneous items that would come in handy. Let's head on over to the bike and get things started. All right, guys, we are over here on the right side of the bike. We are looking at our clutch cover. You have a clutch cover like I do. This is an R&G Racing clutch cover. It's held on with a few 4mm Allen screws, so we need to remove those. So let's go ahead and do that now. Go ahead and move our cover. With our R&G clutch cover off, we have a series of, looks like minor torque. So I apologize for not mentioning that early in the things that we're going to need. Your clutch cover bolts may be a little different, but mine are T27 torques. You also have an 8mm screw here that we're going to need to remove. All right. Now, before I go ahead and remove my 8mm screw here, I am going to take my two 13mm wrenches, and I'm going to remove the clutch cable. That way this will be easier to install when we're going to install our STM slipper clutch. To remove the clutch cable, you just push this arm forward as far as it'll go, and then you disengage the cable like that. You just pull it out of this lever like so. Now we can remove our 8mm screw here or bolt. Like so. I'm just going to tuck this up out of the way back there. All right, so now our clutch cover should be ready to come off. Like so. You see the inside of the clutch cover. Sometimes our gasket will be stuck to here. Sometimes our gasket will be stuck to the engine case. In this case, it's on the engine case, so we'll just go ahead and remove it. Sometimes you can reuse this gasket, but I think it just makes sense to just go ahead and get a replacement just in case, because you never know what you're working. If you've never had this clutch cover off, you may go to take this off and this may be in 2 pieces or multiple pieces or maybe damaged in some way. So again, I hate to go through this process of getting to this point and then you go, oh crap, now I have to go and order this gasket, and it's going to be, who knows, maybe a couple of weeks wherever you are. But again, Pro Italia had these in stock, so it was only a couple of days for me. All right, so what we're looking at now is our clutch pressure plate. It's held in with 6 bolts, which are under tension with springs. So we're gonna go ahead and remove those. They're all the same. So no need to worry about exactly where they come out of. Okay, so now our clutch pressure plate is ready to come off. But before I do that, I want to clear out our bucket here because we're going to need to put the clutch discs in here. All right, so now we can just pull off. You can grab the push pin here. We can just pull off our pressure plate. Some of the clutch discs may come out with it. Sometimes it may not. So here we have our clutch pressure plate. There are spacers or keepers inside here, so don't lose these guys. So make sure you pull these out. And there's a bearing in the back side here that we'll need to press out. It's not in there super tight. In fact, I can push it out with my fingers, like so. We're gonna need this again, so don't throw this away. If yours is in there snug, you'll just wanna get like a socket that can fit through the hole with a little mallet and just lightly tap it out. But we're gonna reuse that. But we can set this aside because we're not gonna reuse this. And now you can clearly see our clutch discs. So our clutch pack consists of a series of friction discs that look like this. They have little blocks on either side with these little, I don't know, rectangular pegs on the outside, followed by a steel disc. See if I can get one out. That looks like this. And we always alternate these. We always alternate friction disc, friction disc, steel disc, until we get to the proper clutch pack thickness. So every clutch pack has a proper thickness. STM specifies a clutch pack thickness of 43 millimeters plus, I believe it's plus 0.4 millimeters down to minus 0.2 millimeters. So I guess that would be 42.8 millimeters up to 43.4 millimeters would be our range of thickness that would be okay. We're going to talk about these, their wear limits and how to measure them and things of that nature. But basically we want to take these out and keep them in the order that they came out. So what a lot of people like to do, take off your first disc and set it face down. Take off your steel discs and set them face down. Now, what's nice about these friction discs and steel discs is it doesn't make any difference. There's no front to back. So as long as they go in there, and there's no front to back, and there's no orientation within your clutch basket. So as long as we get the order right, it doesn't make any difference whether I put the steel disc in this way, or the friction disc in this way, or rotate it any type of way. Got it? So let's just take them off and we'll set them down like that. We'll do that as we go. We'll pull all of them off and we'll set them all on top of our pressure plate. That way we make sure that we have the correct order. I find it's easier if you get a little pick to get these out because it can be challenged to get in here sometimes. Now you'll see as we get into here, there are going to be what's called judder springs in here. The judder springs are not needed for our STM slipper clutch. Some clutches, they are. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but for the STM clutch, once we get to the judder springs, we can set them aside and I'll show you what they are. Okay, I got a bunch of them off there. We're getting to the last disc. So the judder springs are going to come off next. There's one, and I want to make sure I get the other one. I can show you at the same time. Okay, so these little guys are called judder springs. One is perfectly flat. It's more like a keeper. The other one is convex or concave. You can't really see that on here, but this one is convex or concave, and one fits inside of the other. We don't need these, but I'll show you why we have them. These fit inside this friction disc. This friction disc is different from all the others because this inside opening is a lot wider to accommodate our judder springs because they fit, oh, as I drop one on the ground, as these judder springs fit inside this friction disc. So all of the friction discs are the same except for this one. And then we have our very last steel plate here. And then our last friction disc. All right, there we go. So here we have our clutch pack thickness. So we're going to measure this to see where it is. Now, if you're replacing your clutch pack, you're replacing all of your friction discs and your slide discs, again, there should be a minimum thickness. There's a range, and I've already mentioned that. Now, if we measure this, 43.3 is where my clutch pack comes in at right now. So before we continue tearing this down, what I want to mention is that your friction discs and your steel plates, your slide plates, they have wear limits. So each one of these friction discs should be 3 millimeters to a wear limit of 0.2. So should be anywhere from 2.8 to 3 millimeters. Anything less than 2.8, you should replace these. So all you really need to do is break out your calipers, measure them, and see what they come in at. This one is 3 mil. I don't know if you could see that. And you'll measure all of them. That's how you measure these. If there's anything less than 2.8, 2.7, 2.6, you need to replace these. Your steel discs, they don't necessarily wear. They don't become thinner. If they do, you have bigger problems. But the way we measure this is with our feeler gauges here. So we'll put this down on a flat surface. We'll apply a light pressure, and then we'll slide our feeler gauges, if I can get these open, we'll slide our feeler gauges underneath there. And the wear limit is 1 millimeter. If you can get a 1 mil feeler gauge under the steel plate, then there's too much deflection and it needs to be replaced. Basically, you'll just set it down on a flat surface, put light pressure. You don't want to push down on it to make sure you're taking out any deflections. But you want to put light pressure so that you can slide this under here, or slide one of these feeler gauges under here without it moving. And you'll do that at a number of places around the feeler gauge, and you'll do that around the steel plate. And you'll do that with all of your steel plates. And if you can fit a 1 mil feeler gauge under any one of them, then there's too much deflection and these need to be replaced. But if you're replacing your STM slipper clutch and you're replacing all of these things, all of your clutch discs, then get new clutch discs. If you're on this side of the pond, really your only option is Barnett clutches, which are fantastic. If you're across the pond, then you probably have a few more options. But I think the whole entire clutch pack, friction disc and steel plates from Barnett is about $240, somewhere in that area. All of my friction discs, I've already gone ahead and measured these because I'm a little bit anal like that, and I want to make sure that things are proper before I start tearing them down and putting them on video. But all of my friction discs and slide steel plates are all within spec, so we're going to reuse these, with the exception, like I said, of the judder spring. So, having said that, what we need to do is we need to break this down. So we need to get our impact with a large socket. I think that's 25, 27 millimeter, and we'll screw that off. You could also use one of these, hold your clutch basket in place, and then use the impact to turn it off. But hopefully, just hitting it with the impact will spin it off. So 32 millimeters is the correct size. All right, see if we can spin this puppy off. There we go. All right, now we are ready to slide out this piece here. It just comes off like so. And we want to keep this washer. So the STM instructions say that, you know, there's a washer in between this guy and this housing that sits back here. We want to make sure that we keep this. So I'm going to slide this back on and put that right back in there. Okay, so let's head on over to my desk and let's take a peek at what comes in our STM slipper clutch box. Here's our STM box. Let's open this puppy up, see what we have. All right, we have some STM stickers. These looks like instructions. They are, but they're all in Italian, and I don't speak Italian. So luckily for me, I downloaded the English version. So we have some instructions. And then we have our STM slipper clutch. We have our lock nut, some hardware, and that's it. So some of this STM clutch, as you can see, comes pre-assembled. So we have our items here on top, here. And all of these parts, which is nice, what STM does, all of these have the part numbers on here, which corresponds to part numbers on our instructions. This is super simple, which starts here, then we have our basket, bearings, the hub, all of the springs and keepers, and ends with our pressure plates and hardware up at the end. And you just install really in this order, with this being the motorcycle side, this being the exterior side. So you start from here and install according to that. But here's basically our pressure plate with the spring on top, and it's already pre-assembled. You can't see it, but there is again, there are part numbers on here, but there's a little spring that's already pre-installed, a snap ring spring that's already pre-installed here, as you can see as I move it around. There are a couple of nuts that are already pre-installed that we keep them there. There's nothing here that just sits on top, so you have a lot to do there. And then our hub, again, we have a couple of springs in here. There are some items, as you can see, I don't know if you can see that, but again, each part is labeled with a part number. We have another spring that's already pre-installed. The bushing that's already pre-installed with the set screw that's, and the instructions tell you to make sure that this set screw is lower. It's not sticking out past here, so that it's lower than this mating surface here. And it's pretty self-explanatory. Again, more part numbers on each of these things. Here as well, more part numbers on here. There's our bearing set in there. This sits on top of here. This goes on top of it, like that. This is the component that we press our bearing into, so it'll just press right back in here. Again, not a whole lot of pressure, but yeah, this should be super simple. So let's head on back over to the bike and start installing these items. All right, so we're back over here now, ready to install our goodies. So again, our instructions say to make sure that this spacer is in place, and it is. So now we're just going to slide our STM clutch, our hub, over the top. With our hub in place, now all we're going to do is install our clutch pack in the reverse order that we took them off. So starting with the friction disc, slide plate. Now this is where the judder springs would go, because you can tell, again, this has a larger opening. Let me see if I can show you that here. So here is a standard friction disc. Here is the one that has the judder springs. You can see that the opening in here is a lot larger to accommodate the judder springs. So, like I was saying, so now slide plate, friction disc, and we just want to alternate friction discs and slide plates until the entire stack is on here. Like so. Now we want to install our secondary spring, this guy here. And the instructions call for adding a little bit of grease, primarily so that this stays in place. We don't want to goop it up on here, but when we put it in here, we want it to stay there and not fall out. Like so. Now we can install our pressure plate. Spring. Keeper. Now these fins go over the top of the fins of this spring here. So there are 9 of them, 9 here. So they go over the top. Don't make the mistake of seating this, putting it under, and this on top. Don't do that. This goes on first, then these sit on top of the springs like so. Bearing. Next, this hub here. Now we have a washer that's convex. The convex side faces out. And then our lock nut. This is where this little part comes in. So this was in the box of our STM slipper clutch. So this is actually the tool to help us torque that nut down because it's recessed in there and it's starred, or I don't know, starred hex, I guess, I don't know, like this. So this tool sits in there like so, and it helps us to torque. So the nut side of here is 30 mil. Where this tool comes in is to hold everything in place. So we install it like this. Now I can hold this in place while I grab my torque wrench. Now we need to take this piece in our bearing and we need to press the bearing into here. And then I'm going to tap this into place. Just like that, all pressed into place. Now we want to find our pin. We cannot forget, do not forget the pin, because we don't want to put this and this over here like that. This comes underneath, like so. So the pin goes in here. This goes over, like so. And now we can get our hardware and tighten everything down. I don't know if you could see it, but these screws have lock washers on them. So thread locker's not needed. And I believe this is 4 mil. It is. And then we just put the hardware in here. I believe the torque specs are 10 Newton meters, excuse me. All right. All right, so now we can get our gasket. Line it up on the alignment pins. Now these here and here. All right. Get our clutch cable. Put the cable back in, and we'll put our bolt back up here. Okay. So now I'm going to operate the clutch lever just to make sure that it works. So I'm going to go on the other side. And we're still a little loose there. So I need to adjust this. Let's try that. Better. Right there. There we go. You have good clutch actuation. So now I'm going to tighten these down. Come on. Now I can put this cover back on. All right, so that is it for the STM clutch. We're all installed. We're good to go there. I cannot stress the importance of this specialty tool. I will put the part numbers and everything in the comment section below. But this tool is super important. Otherwise, it's going to be hell trying to torque this down, or you're going to be trying to torque it with a impact driver, which may or may not work for you. But super important. I think if you're spending the money and you're doing a type of build like this and you're spending the money on the STM slipper cuts, spending an extra $100 or so on the specialty tool so you can make sure that you torque everything down properly is super important. Well, that's a wrap, guys, on our STM slipper clutch install on our Mv Agusta F3 XX track bike build. Wasn't that bad, right? I mean, as long as you can follow the instructions and look at an illustration and install in that order, it's not that bad, right? Right? Anyway, I hope this was helpful for you guys. My name is Derek. This is your Superbike Life. You guys know the drill. Like, comment, subscribe, or smash it. Please click that like button. It allows me to bring my content to more enthusiasts like you guys. But until next time, guys, take care.